I didn't expect anything unusual when I walked into the clinic that Tuesday morning. Just a checkup. Routine labs. Something I did twice a year, mostly out of habit. I felt fine. A little tired, sure, but everyone's tired these days. I was 42, worked 50-hour weeks, managed a team of 20 in a warehouse that never really slept. Being exhausted was part of the job description. The doctor came in holding a manila folder. He sat instead of standing. I'd seen that look before years ago, when my dad's cardiologist did the same thing. "It's Hodgkin's lymphoma," he said. "Stage 2. We caught it early." I nodded slowly, more curious than scared. The room felt oddly still, like everything had taken one slow breath and was holding it. I didn't ask, "Why me?" or break down, or shout. That's not how I'm built. I listened, took mental notes, treatment plan, chemo schedule, side effects. My questions came out in clear, even tones, the same voice I used when our shipping system went down last year and no one else knew what to do. When I left the clinic, I sat in my truck for almost an hour, watched a father and daughter walk into a bakery across the street, checked the time, 11:27 a.m. I had a 1 p.m. status meeting back at the warehouse. I showed up on time, ran the meeting, didn't mention a thing. Back home that night, I told my dog, Cooper. He tilted his head like he was trying to understand. I poured a whiskey, just one, and stared out the back window for a long time. I didn't tell anyone. Not yet. Not my team. Not my boss. Not even my sister, who usually hears everything first. I wanted to have a plan before I brought anyone into it. I started researching oncologists, transferred my PTO balance to a spreadsheet, updated my insurance logins. Quiet steps, necessary ones. Getting cancer doesn't change who you are. It just shows you, real fast, who you've always been underneath. And me? I've always handled things the same way. Carefully, quietly, alone if I had to. I waited until the Friday after I'd met with the oncologist. I wanted everything lined up: appointment schedule, treatment timeline, answers to questions I knew Travis would never actually ask. He was in his office, tie perfectly straight, blazer on a hanger behind the door like always. I stepped in and closed the door behind me. "Got a minute?" I asked. He looked up from his phone. "Sure, Mark. What's going on?" I didn't make a speech, just told him flat. "I've been diagnosed with stage 2 Hodgkin's lymphoma. Starting chemotherapy next week. Treatments bi-weekly. Should be manageable, but I'll need some days off." Travis blinked, then gave a slow nod. "Wow. Sorry to hear that." He leaned back in his chair, laced his fingers behind his head. "Let me know how long you'll be out, and we'll figure things out here." That was it. No follow-up. No, "What can we do to support you?" Just logistics. The same tone he used when someone reported a missed delivery window. I gave a short nod, kept my face neutral. He didn't ask if I was okay. Didn't ask anything, actually. Instead, he said, "I'll loop in HR, just to cover our bases." By Monday, I was sitting in a conference room with Janine, the HR manager. She brought printed forms and a packet labeled Medical Leave Policy Overview. It looked like something downloaded off a legal template site. "We'll need a doctor's note for the file," she said, flipping pages. "This would fall under short-term leave initially, and then if needed, we can look into FMLA coverage. But the company's small, so it's flexible." Flexible meant undefined. It meant nothing in writing. I nodded, signed where she told me. Asked if I could work remote between treatments. She smiled too quickly. "We'll see what's reasonable," she said. "Just focus on getting better." Back at my desk, I opened my inbox to find I'd already been removed from 2 project threads. No explanation. No note. That night, I sat in my truck again after work. Engine off. Just breathing. I'd kept the news quiet, thinking professionalism would earn me respect. Instead, It felt like they were already packing me away in their minds. Making room. Chemo wasn't like what you see in the movies. It wasn't slow motion and soft lighting and brave smiles. It was nausea in waves so sharp I couldn't sit upright. It was bone-deep fatigue that made lifting a glass of water feel like work. It was waking up in soaked sheets at 3 a.m., head pounding, tongue like sandpaper. I'd marked the dates ahead of time, made a coverage plan, even drafted notes for the Monday ops meeting so the team wouldn't fall behind. That Thursday morning, while sitting slumped on the couch with a blanket over my shoulders and Cooper resting his head near my feet, I opened my laptop and sent a check-in email. Just finished treatment. Will be offline most of today, but available tomorrow if needed. Let me know if anything urgent comes up. Happy to review docs or jump on a call from home. 3 hours later, Travis replied, appreciate the update. Focus on your health, we'll manage here. No CC to HR. No well wishes. No mention of what managing meant. I read it twice. Closed my laptop. The next day, I tried again. Sent over a draft timeline for a new supplier rollout, thinking it would help whoever was covering. No response. Monday passed. Tuesday too. Silence. By Wednesday, I was well enough to shower and sit at my desk, but I didn't log into Slack. I just stared at my inbox, full of automated notifications but nothing human. In a moment of impulse, I called Janine in HR. Voicemail. Hey, it's Mark. Just checking in, wanted to make sure we're all still aligned on the coverage plan. I'm happy to stay involved as much as I can. Give me a ring when you have a second. She never called back. It wasn't that I needed their sympathy. I didn't want anyone to hold my hand. I just didn't expect to disappear so quickly. 1 week into treatment, and it already felt like I'd been erased. They'd told me to focus on getting better. What they really meant was, go quietly. And I had up until that point. I came back the following Monday. Second round of chemo wasn't scheduled for another week, and I felt steady enough to handle a few hours in the office. Something about getting out of the house, putting on a shirt with buttons, reminded me that I was still useful, still myself. I arrived just before 9. The receptionist blinked in surprise when she saw me. Hey, Mark. I didn't think. I nodded politely and walked past her. My ID badge still worked, but something felt different the second I stepped into the bullpen. Conversations quieted. No one turned around. Just the click of keyboards and eyes fixed on monitors. When I got to my desk, I stopped. My nameplate was gone. So were my notebooks, the photos of my sister's kids, the half-used bottle of Advil, the stress ball shaped like a forklift, all of it. A new monitor had been set up. Different keyboard. My chair was replaced. For a moment, I wondered if I'd gotten the wrong spot. Then I saw Lena, the junior analyst I'd mentored last year, sitting 2 rows down at what used to be my project station. She glanced up, startled. Hey, Mark. I didn't know you were coming in today. I gave a small smile. Neither did I. A few minutes later, Travis stepped out of his office. His tie was red this time. No jacket. Oh, Mark. Didn't expect you back so soon, he said, smiling in that way people do when they're waiting for an audience to applaud. I said I'd be in between treatments. Right, he said quickly. We've temporarily reassigned a few things just to keep momentum. Hope that's okay. I nodded. Who's running my team? He gestured toward Lena. She's stepping up, doing great. Of course she was. She's smart, capable, but she wasn't ready, and we both knew it. I spent the rest of the morning pretending to catch up. No one looked me in the eye. Conversations around me danced just far enough away to exclude me. They hadn't fired me. Not yet. But they'd started something else. They were phasing me out, without saying it aloud. And they thought I wouldn't notice. It happened on a Wednesday. I was in the infusion chair, arm taped with a line dripping slow poison into my veins. The nurse, Carla, was humming something soft. My phone buzzed in the pocket of my sweatshirt. I ignored it at first. Let it vibrate once, twice, then silence. I reached for it an hour later, hands slow, everything feeling heavier than it should. I expected a message from my sister or a delivery alert for the groceries I'd ordered that morning. It was an email. Subject: Important update regarding your role. I stared at the subject line for a long time before opening it. Just one line of text above the attachment. Please review the attached document regarding recent organizational changes. The PDF was 5 pages long, dense, corporate language. Restructuring, streamlining, market conditions. My name buried in paragraph 3, casually folded into a list of positions impacted. No call, no meeting, no explanation beyond what could have been copy-pasted from a template. They fired me by attachment. I didn't react, didn't throw my phone or curse under my breath. Carla came by to check the IV and smiled like nothing had changed, because for her, nothing had. I stared out the window as a snow flurry began to fall across the parking lot. Early for October, each flake hit the glass and melted instantly. When I looked back down, I replied to the email with one word: understood. Then I turned off the phone, leaned my head back, and closed my eyes. People think anger is loud, yelling, slamming doors, explosions. But real anger, the kind that settles in your chest and builds pressure quietly, that kind of anger doesn't shout. It watches, it waits, and it remembers. I collapsed 3 days after that chemo session. Woke up in the ER with an oxygen mask strapped to my face, 2 IVs running, and an unfamiliar nurse telling me I'd spiked a 104-degree fever. Blood counts had bottomed out. They were moving me to inpatient. I was too weak to argue. The hospital room was beige and too quiet. I drifted in and out for a day and a half, eating ice chips and trying not to throw up the nausea meds. My phone stayed off. I didn't want updates. I didn't want emails. On the second afternoon, a nurse came in holding a bouquet. "Delivery for Mark Briggs," she said cheerfully, setting it on the side table. Bright red roses, white lilies, a tasteful arrangement in a glass vase. Tied to it with a silver ribbon was a small folded card. "Here's something to lift your spirits. From the team." There was no company logo, no signature line, just those 10 words, written in a precise, slanted script I'd seen 100 times scrawled across whiteboards and post-it notes in our office. Travis's handwriting. I stared at the card, didn't touch it, just watched the flowers, too bright against the muted hospital light. The red of the roses was wrong somehow, too vibrant, too proud. A mocking little gift dressed in sympathy. He didn't call after he fired me, didn't check in, didn't explain. But he sent this like I was a milestone, to be crossed off a list, a gesture to clear his conscience or cover his tracks. I didn't throw the flowers away, didn't ask the nurse to remove them. I just stared at them for a long time, jaw locked, breath shallow. Not grief, not sadness, just a steady, deliberate shift inside me. If Travis thought this was over, he'd miscalculated. Badly. The fever broke on Sunday. By Monday morning, I was sitting upright in the hospital bed, appetite still gone, but my mind clear in a way it hadn't been for weeks. Not angry, not even surprised anymore. Just focused. There's a moment after the damage is done when your instincts stop screaming and start sharpening, when emotion gives way to calculation. That's where I was now. They hadn't just fired me, they'd erased me, slowly, quietly, like I'd never mattered to begin with. So I started collecting. First, I requested a full copy of my employee file from HR. They were legally required to provide it. Took screenshots of every Slack thread, even the petty ones. Dug through old emails, quarterly reviews, praise from clients, bonus approval all. Proof that I hadn't just been competent, I'd been necessary. Then I opened a folder on my desktop and named it simply "Document Everything." I remembered something Travis had said in a meeting once: if it's not in writing, it didn't happen. So I made sure everything was. Next, I called Lena. We met 10 years ago through a mutual friend. She'd just started practicing employment law. I was new to logistics. Over the years, we'd traded war stories about office politics over drinks. She was sharp, methodical, no tolerance for corporate BS. When I told her what had happened, there was a pause. "Mark," she said finally, "they fired you while you were on medical leave?" "Restructured me out," I replied, via PDF. I could hear the frown in her voice. "Send me everything. I'll take a look." I did. Every file, every calendar entry, the flower card. She called me back the next morning. "This isn't just shady, it's illegal. They're violating FMLA, possibly ADA too. You want to play this out?" I looked at the hospital monitor, still tracking my vitals. "I don't want revenge," I said. "I want consequences." "Then let's get started," Lena replied. Lena didn't move fast, she moved right. She started by combing through my termination documents line by line. "Generic language," she said, "but no formal notice, no accommodation, and no medical leave documentation. That's 3 strikes already." Then she asked a question that hadn't crossed my mind. "Are you sure you're not still technically an employee?" I paused. "They fired me." "Yeah," she said. "But did they process it?" We started digging. I logged into my old benefits portal surprisingly. Still active. My insurance? Still listed as active coverage through the company group plan. My name? Still on the internal team directory. Payroll access was gone, but according to HR records, I was on leave. Not terminated. "They didn't finalize anything," Lena said, surprised. "That could mean incompetence, or it could mean they're up to something." A few more days of digging revealed the rest. Through a state transparency portal, Lena found a line item in a recent report. Hardship retention credit claimed under the state's pandemic-era business relief program. My name was listed. Travis had submitted it after the termination email. The company had received 15,000 for keeping me employed through medical hardship, a benefit tied to my cancer treatment, a treatment they fired me for undergoing. "Jesus," I muttered. "They're profiting off your illness," Lena said flatly. "And if we subpoena their internal records, I'll bet we find more." It wasn't shock I felt. Not anymore. It was that low, slow burn of quiet fury, kind that doesn't scream or pace or slam doors. It just sharpens every thought. They thought I'd be too sick to notice, too tired to fight back. They were wrong. Dead wrong. It started with a message on LinkedIn. "Hey Mark, can we talk? Something's been bothering me. Devin." I hadn't heard from Devin in months. He'd been part of the inventory analytics team, sharp guy, fresh out of grad school, always polite, quiet, but observant. We weren't close, but we got along. I sent him my number. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. "Hey," he said, voice low, nervous. "This might be nothing, but I figured you should know before you hear it somewhere else." I waited. "Back in March, a few weeks before you started treatment," he continued, "I was in a meeting with Travis, just a handful of us. He made a joke, something about finally cutting loose the dead weight before Q2. Said your salary could buy us 2 younger analysts who won't disappear every other week." I didn't respond. "There's more," Devin added. "After your diagnosis, he told HR to start prepping for a quiet off-ramp. I think he knew exactly what he was doing. And Mark, I still have the Slack thread, the whole conversation. He forwarded it to me within the hour. Travis writing, "We'll call it restructuring. Keep it clean. I want him out before summer, no drama." The timestamp was 11 days before I received my chemo schedule. He'd already made the decision. The illness just gave him cover. I thanked Devin, told him I appreciated his integrity. He hesitated before hanging up. "I'm sorry, man. None of this was right." After the call, I opened the folder on my desktop and dropped in the screenshots. Labeled the new file, "Whistleblower." Devon. My hands were steady as I clicked save. They hadn't just fired me. They'd calculated it. Lena was waiting when I pulled into her driveway that Friday. Legal pads on the table. Laptop open. Printer still warm. Devon's message sealed it, she said without looking up. We've got termination during protected leave. FMLA violations. Retaliation. Fraud. Discrimination. Possibly ADA. She handed me a thick manila folder. This is your dossier. Full record of everything. The EEOC complaint is ready to file. So is the DOL grievance. We'll submit both today. She walked me through each document. Dates, correspondence, patterns, Travis's Slack messages, HR's silence, the retention credit. They cashed, while pretending I was still an employee. We don't accuse, Lena said. We show. That's stronger. I nodded. And the lawsuit? In draft, she said. We'll hold off, see how they respond. But we're ready. It didn't feel like a win. Not yet. It felt like standing at the top of a hill, staring down a battlefield, knowing the fight was coming whether I wanted it or not. They thought you'd roll over, Lena said, glancing up. They thought wrong, I replied. We filed the complaints that afternoon. No announcement. No warning. Just a quiet, careful beginning. Exactly my style. The email went out on a Thursday at 8:03 a.m. 2. legal@archerlogistics.com. CC. board@archerlogistics.com. Subject. Documentation. Regarding termination and medical leave. I kept it short. Professional. Precise. Attached, you'll find a timeline and documentation of misconduct related to my termination while undergoing chemotherapy. This includes potential violations of the Family and Medical Leave Act, Americans with Disabilities Act, and relevant state labor laws. I recommend reviewing the materials prior to your upcoming board meeting. I will not be communicating further through HR. There were no threats, no personal appeals. Just the file 37 pages of time-stamped evidence, emails, Slack messages, performance reviews, the retention credit, Devon's screenshots, Lena's legal summary. The attachment name was simple. Briggs. Statement. Of. Facts. PDF. I clicked send, then closed the laptop and went about my day. I didn't wait for a response. I didn't refresh my inbox. I didn't rehearse what I might say if someone called. I'd already said what mattered. It wasn't revenge I wanted. It was accountability. In writing. With signatures. That night, I walked Cooper through the neighborhood. Leaves skittered across the sidewalk in small spirals. A neighbor waved. I waved back. When I got home, I checked my phone. No missed calls. Good. The right people had seen what they needed to see. Now, it was their move. The call came the next morning at 9:12 a.m. I didn't recognize the number but answered anyway. Mark, Travis said, voice tight but trying to sound casual. I think we should clear the air. I said nothing. You know, misunderstandings happen. Things move fast in business, maybe we got wires crossed. Why don't we meet? Not interested, I replied. I just want to find a solution that works for everyone. Then talk to your legal team, I said. They have the file. An hour later, I got an email from HR. Subject line. Confidential resolution proposal. It came with an NDA, a 2-page settlement offer, and a boilerplate apology for any miscommunication during your transition. No admission of wrongdoing. No accountability. Low 5 figures. I read it, then read it again, then replied. Declined. You're not protecting the company. You're protecting Travis. I'm not interested in silence. I'm interested in resolution with consequences. No smiley face. No threats. Just truth. By noon, Lena called. Her voice was clipped. They're scrambling. Good, I said. Let them. Lena warned me it might happen. When we file with the EEOC, it becomes public record, she said. Someone might pick it up. I didn't expect it to happen that fast. The article dropped on a Monday morning. Headline: Cancer, patient fired mid. Chemo. Local company faces discrimination probe. It ran in the Kansas City Business Ledger, written by a reporter named Maya Torres. Lena later told me Maya had covered employment issues before sharp, respected, hard to intimidate. She'd found the case through the EEOC bulletin. Then she'd found me. I didn't give a quote. I didn't want my face in the story. But everything she wrote was accurate, filed dates, timeline, names, the retention credit, the whistleblower message, even the flowers. By noon, the story was everywhere. Reddit threads, LinkedIn shares, industry forums. Former Archer Logistics employees began commenting anonymous stories about misused leave. Sudden firings after medical disclosures. A culture of optics over ethics. One post stood out. Worked at Archer for 5 years. Saw people disappear after HR found out they were pregnant, sick, or just too expensive. Management always found a way to make it look clean. Glad someone finally spoke up. They weren't just telling my story anymore. They were telling theirs. That night, my inbox flooded with messages. Some from strangers. Some from people I hadn't talked to in years. One from a woman whose husband was denied bereavement leave after losing his brother. Your case gave us the courage to push back. I didn't reply to all of them, but I read every single word. It turns out silence isn't safety. Sometimes, silence is strategy. And once the silence breaks, it spreads. Travis was placed on administrative leave by Wednesday. No press release. Just a quiet note slipped into an internal memo. Effective immediately, Travis Leary will be taking a leave of absence pending a review of recent allegations. By Friday, Archer Logistics announced a full internal investigation and a comprehensive HR audit led by a third-party firm. Janine, the HR manager who never returned my calls, was reassigned. A new employee care officer was appointed. Title said it all. The board contacted Lena directly. They wanted a meeting. No lawyers, just us. The offer came at the end of that call. 6 figures, public apology, full benefits restoration, company-wide policy revisions on medical leave, performance reviews, and termination protocol. I listened to every word. Let the silence settle when they finished. Then I said, I'll accept under one condition. My name stays in the apology. No generic language. No former employee phrasing. I want this on record. There was a pause. Then agreement. They sent the final document 2 days later. I read it once, signed it, and closed the folder. This wasn't about winning. It was about drawing a line and making damn sure they saw it. I didn't go back to logistics. After everything, the idea of returning to quarterly targets and shipping metrics felt like trying to fit into a suit 2 sizes too small. I needed air. I needed purpose that didn't come with a company badge or a polished mission statement taped to a break room wall. So, I joined a nonprofit. Rights, recovery, small office, big mission. They help patients navigate workplace rights during medical crises, FMLA, ADA, wrongful termination, hostile leave environments. All the fine print most people don't read until it's already too late. Lena made the connection. I signed on as a program coordinator 3 months after the settlement. No corner office, no big salary. But every email I answered and call I returned felt like pulling someone back from the edge I'd stood on myself. I framed the flower card, the one Travis sent. It hangs in a simple black frame next to my desk. People ask about it sometimes. I just say it's a reminder of how things can look kind but still come with teeth. Cooper still sleeps near my feet during long Zoom calls. The chemo's behind me now. Blood work looks clean. Energy comes back in slow waves, like the tide deciding if it trusts the shore again. One afternoon, I got an email from a name I didn't recognize. Young employee from Archer. Still there. Still quiet. You don't know me, but I know what happened. I just wanted to say thank you. You gave people like me a reason not to stay silent. End of 40. None, end of crop. I read it twice. Then again. Then I smiled, leaned back in my chair, and closed the laptop. I didn't feel victorious. There was no parade, no champagne, no dramatic music cue. But I felt still, grounded. I'd lost a lot. Time, health, trust. But I'd built something new in the space left behind. Something rooted deeper than revenge. Somewhere along the way, I stopped trying to go back to who I was before the diagnosis. I started becoming the version of myself that could survive ITAND, everything that came after. Not to win, but to live well. That was enough. This story was intense, but this story on the right-hand side is even more insane.